Our visiting professor today is Shawn French, video game writer and designer for Hyperkinetic Studios, lead writer of the RPG Epic Tavern, which I just downloaded, writer and creator of Murder on the Midway for the Tales app. It's kind of a gamified choose-your-own-adventure. It's awesome. I'm about halfway through that. So before finding his home in games, he paid the bills as a stand-up comic and comedy writer, sports journalist, and videographer, and film critic. And that alone means he's going to fit very well here at the Academy. Shawn is also the co-creator, and writer of the comic book series Escape from Jesus Island, and writer and director of the horror flick The Wrong House. Links to Shawn's work are in the description. Shawn, welcome to Balderdash Academy.
Thanks for having me.
So, Shawn, you've had a fairly whirlwind creative career, right? I mean, doing stand-up, doing a comedy writer, moving from that into horror as a filmmaker, as a comic book writer, working in video games. So, effectively, I think the one thing that all of this has in common is you're a storyteller.
I've obviously dabbled in a lot of different mediums, and by dabbled, I mean failed. Before finally, and that's really kind of what it was. It was sort of trying a bunch of things that didn't work until I got to one that did. Finally, fortunately, found a home in the games industry. And
I understand. I mean, I've been an actor. I've been a stand-up comic. I was so good that I'm now the head of a fake comedy school. So it should tell you something, right? But I mean, that means a lot. So you fail until you find your place. Failure, like they say, failure is always an option as long as it informs you about where you're going. So how did you get into the video game industry that you're in today?
The hard way. I as a teenager, right out of high school, I decided I was gonna. This is like the late '80s. There was no video game industry yet, but I decided I'm gonna move right to California and just break into games, and it's gonna be great, and they're gonna love me, and it'll be awesome. And that did not go as planned. That did not work at all. It was a big public failure. Everybody knew I was going off to break into video games, and I had a playtesting gig lined up that ended up not being real once I get out there. So that was fun. That was obviously a really painful failure. And then about 6 months later, I moved 3,000 miles again to Bethesda, Maryland for another chance to break into games and failed again. So that was cool. Had another period where I spent a year designing the story world for a role-playing game that died before launch. Yep. So that was nice. So I spent about a 4-year period in my early 20s just getting kicked in the face trying to get into the games industry. And the problem was it was just too early. I was there before there were jobs. If I showed up 5 years later, I'd be running a studio by now. And it wasn't until, my mid-40s that I kind of recovered from that just series of monumental failures, just painful failures, enough to give it another go. And, things have changed so much now. The gatekeepers are gone. You don't need permission from anybody to make anything. You can just climb over the walls once the kids had moved out and I had all this free time again, I decided to kind of give the creative career another shot. And everything had just changed so much that all the walls that I hit the first time were gone. And I was able to sneak through. Exactly. Yeah.
That was me climbing the walls for you.
Did those stumbles in the beginning help inform where you wanted to go when you were ready to get back into it? Was that like a decision that you made that I'm getting into it again, or was it kind of you found yourself in the industry?
No, I happened to, just a chance meeting, run across one of the producers of Epic Tavern, one of the designers of Epic Tavern. And I happened to know his wife. They were passing through town, needed a place to stay. I'd never met him, didn't know what he did. And we got talking, and he had read the comic and liked it. He'd seen my movie, and he had worked on the Spider-Man games on PlayStation 2, which I had played the crap out of. And we just hit it off like long lost brothers right out of the gate. And he was looking for a chance to kind of get me in, but there weren't really opportunities. They had a couple guys. And so I kind of stalked the company for about 4 months online and just waited for any gap. And they finally advertised for a social media director job, which I didn't want, but I applied for anyway. And just sent this ridiculous 2-page cover letter that just focused on my writing background. I completely ignored the job I was applying for and just applied for a writer. And that ended up working. They brought me on to do like a kind of just a test quest, right? One quest to see how it goes. And that turned into some freelance work, and that turned into a full-time job, and that turned into me taking over as lead writer. I've been a solo writer for the last like 3.5 years.
Wow.
But I knew it was a game.
That's amazing.
Like Epic Tavern is like in the dead center of the Venn diagram of everything I'm good at. Like writing medieval fantasy stories and it's just, I knew it was something that if I could get a foot in the door, you know, I'd be able to kind of, you know, get a foothold there. And, you know, I happened to get in with Hyperkinetic Studios, which as a startup founded by the people who made the Spider-Man games, kind of the core creative team from that decided to get out of the AAA industry and start making their own stuff. And it was just the best possible landing spot I could have hoped for. I mean, it's just...
Yeah.
So one of these risks really did work out, is what you're saying.
Oh, they totally did. In fact, the thing about when I finally broke through, one of the best things, and something that I didn't really expect, is that it repainted every failure in my life as being one of the steps that led me to where I needed to get. And you could directly trace it back. The game that I spent a year designing that ended up not even launching, the deal I had with them was if the game didn't launch, I kept full creative control of the story world. So I didn't lose it when that went away. I still had that story world.
That's awesome.
That's great.
We had a moment in Epic Tavern where before we were doing our first early access launch, we decided like last minute, let's put a prologue in with a cinematic and that sort of thing. And from the moment we decided that, I had 24 hours to submit a script for the storyboard so we could get it to the artist in time to get it done.
Wow.
And that had to be 24 hours to create what was going to be the central storyline of the entire game from scratch.
No pressure.
Jeez.
No pressure.
Would have been terrifying had I not failed at this other game earlier and had this whole story world ready to go and this whole mythology and was just able to salvage all of that wholesale and bring so much into Epic Tavern. And every one of those failures, as long as you don't kind of burn everything to the ground when you fail and you kind of keep the pieces and you kind of playing the long game and looking forward, the failures are fine. As long as you kind of fail forward, you still make progress.
Some of the freelance writing work that I've done in the past, that clause where you can maintain creative control of the material, I've worked that into graphic design where if I don't get paid, that IP reverts to me.
Nice.
And I've had the same thing where I had to pick up on a logo and I maybe had 24 hours to put it together. Well, I already had 300 thumbnails to pull from. I already did the work. I paid it forward. Yeah. So what got you into filmmaking? I mean, you're a storyteller, so that part makes sense. But where was the jump from games to film?
I just want to do everything once. Was kind of my philosophy. I want to kind of experience every type of storytelling. The Wrong House, when we did that just kind of fell into our lap. Our house got burglarized. We were really pissed off about it, and we needed an outlet.
Well, you know.
So my wife and I decided to make a story where we're serial killers whose house gets burglarized, and they hunt down and kill the people who did it.
Cathartic, wasn't it?
Right?
Do you know if they ever saw it?
Yes, I know that. Yes, I know for a fact they did.
Oh, really?
He has a restraining order.
Oh.
It was a
geez,
message.
later on, after the movie came out.
Yeah, they watched it on his TV.
You're right. That's the worst part.
Yeah.
But it was great. I mean, I started on the script probably 10 days after the break-in, and we had cameras rolling within 3 months while we were still angry. And,
Wow.
we tried,
Yeah.
and then we tried to do everything we could to piss ourselves off during the whole production.
Awesome.
So we had the actors break into the same window the burglars did. And we just sat there and watched them routing through our stuff and digging through everything and just experiencing it, just soaking it all up.
That is awesome.
And by the time it came for the crazy scenes, we were serial killers hunting them down. We didn't have to act. We just, kind of just let an instinct do what it wanted to do, and it was the best.
May
thing.
those actors rest in peace.
Right? It may not have been great for them, but.
I don't know. That sounds like an awesome acting gig.
Yeah.
There's a power in that catharsis, though. I do murder mysteries, and I have a murder mystery company, and I can't tell you how many times I've killed off somebody who annoyed me.
Oh, totally.
Right?
You should have sent them a cast.
cut me off in traffic.
You normally kill yourself. You're normally the one that dies.
What does that say about you, Bob?
It says that I'm giving. It says that to truly understand your aggressor, you need to take their role for a bit, right? Become that which you most hate in the world, and then it's easy. It's like yoga, just with homicide.
And killing yourself off is fun. Dying is a more, like, in terms of like a performance thing, dying is the most fun you can have in a movie. I've had a rule for a long time that I won't do a movie unless I die.
Nice.
I'm not even interested if I don't get killed.
Well, I mean, there's a joy in playing the bad guy. Like, there's a real satisfaction when you bite it and the audience cheers.
Right.
Right? Like, you did a good job.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what that says about all of us, but...
Yeah, the Roundhouse was crazy fun. And the thing that was fun about that, because it was such a small, no-budget shoot, and I wanted there to be a lot of like big hits and impacts and moments that the audience kind of I had to take all those hits myself because I didn't want to get sued. So I kind of structured everything with the final day of the shoot. I just got the beat out of me all day, just relentless. I went backwards down this 20-foot crazy embankment. I got thrown out of a window. We do 6 takes of everything. So I got thrown out of a second-story window 6 times. Got smashed in the face with a freezer door and landed on my back 6 times.
Jeez.
Oh, God.
Taking one for the team.
It was great. Yeah,
Now,
For the team.
broke 3
Yeah,
ribs
really.
in the final 6 hours of shooting in 3 different incidents.
Shawn, did this play at a film festival, this movie?
Yeah, we screened it. We did a couple festivals, and we also rented out theaters at like Cinemagic in Saco, Maine.
I feel like I saw this in Damnation Land.
Yes, Damnation Land. No, it didn't run at Damnation Land, but we've run in the same festivals that Damnation Land showed at.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Interesting.
have you had any... I mean, you did this with no prior stunt work, or did you have stunt work before this?
No, I used to do, 3 times. I went to Vegas for stunt workshops. The Society of American Fight
That is
Directors
so cool.
would you go out there and they just kick the crap out of you for 2 weeks and set you on fire and throw you off buildings and the mats
so
and
cool.
teach you how to fall downstairs and that kind of stuff. So I had a little bit, I had enough that I was confident I'd be able to get through the stunts, and even if I wreck myself in the process, which is actually why
It's
I
the last day.
Yeah, we also filmed all the last scenes sequentially, so that if I got injured, we just used the injury.
There you go.
Most realistic.
Yeah. Right.
That's you were on the line for that more than just physically, though. I mean, did you back the finances for the film? Did you get fundraiser? I mean, did you do credit card? Did you pull the Kevin Smith and credit card do or
No,
how did that work?
We made the movie for $10,000, and we just kind of saved and
That's amazing.
saved up what we could, and kind of paid it off as we went. The initial production was about $3,500, and then we did some some reshoots and post-production costs and that sort of stuff. So we didn't need all the money at once. We were able to kind of chip away at it, and then we
Now,
ultimately made it back.
Have you thought about doing a sequel? And if so, do you want to let people know your address here now?
I need a new TV.
Do you need more inspiration?
Casting
I'll leave a
call.
window open for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have the bats.
Of course, I work from home now, so I will 100% be here when you crawl through the window.
How I look, so.
Okay, we need a decoy.
Yes.
We need a diversion.
Dude, I have definitely seen your movie, which is amazing. I have seen The Wrong House, which is awesome, and I'm remembering back, and I'm remembering these falls on refrigerators and stuff. And they were like these like teenage-ish kids like breaking into a house or something.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
young
yeah.
adult.
Yeah.
Seen
Now, how
your
did you
movie,
find
man.
out they watched it?
We found out who they were very, very quickly after. We put out a bounty with other kids to give them up,
You should have asked them to star in the movie.
and then gave them a chance to return what they'd stolen before we would try to get retaliation on them other ways, which is actually the plot of the movie. The killers hunt down them and give them a chance to return themselves. So really, up until about the 40-minute point of the movie, it's kind of a documentary.
Interesting.
And then
Then it's fantasy.
goes a little wild after that.
So, Shawn, if we wanted to see this now, was it distributed somehow, or is it
but
streaming somewhere?
This was 2008. We did have a distribution deal that ran for 8 or 10 years, and we were like in Walmart. I mean, the movie was out and about.
Awesome.
I have the full rights back. I got them back a couple years ago, but I've been so busy with game stuff, I haven't done anything with it. Maybe I remaster it, kind of knowing what I know now, and try and make a better version. But I don't know. It's something we talk about every couple of years. Whether we just kind of let it be in the past as kind of a stepping stone to get where we were, or if we want to, get it back out there. I mean, just
my
put it up for
husband-
YouTube or something.
My husband is a huge horror movie fan, and we've got a lot of hooligans in our neighborhood, so I feel like we need to watch this movie.
I feel like when you say it comes up to like revisit it every once in a while, it must be like when you're like, where is the freaking ladle, man? No, we should redo that movie. We should definitely redo that
PTSD
movie.
kicks in.
The ladle thief.
They take all kinds of stuff. Hey, Shawn, so you're a story writer at heart, a storyteller at heart. This is a two-part question. Are you really good at video games? Do you love video games, like actually playing them?
Yeah.
Okay. So you said earlier that it was hard to break into the industry, that the industry hasn't really started going at that point. How pissed are you that now video gaming is a sport that people make bajillions of dollars at?
I think it's great. I would be happier if that was the case when I was 15.
I know.
Certainly, there are certainly games that at that age I feel like I could have beat anyone on the planet at.
Yeah.
Had there been a competitive league, but
I actually coach a Super Mario League, so.
oh sweet, I gotta get in on that.
So, I mean, we're at the point now that we have games that are rivaling cinema. If you take a look at the last year, Jedi Fallen Order was better than any Star Wars thing that came out since Clone Wars, the cartoon series. And it was the fact that they weren't afraid to get into the story. They weren't afraid to get into the emotion behind the characters. You don't really see that, or you didn't see that in video games as much prior. Now, do you think that there's a new mix between the two, that the genre, or at least the two industries of film and video games are eventually going to meld so they're indistinguishable? Or do you think that they're going to remain separate, at least outside of the genre film?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to see more overlap, certainly. Netflix has a whole interactive division now. Bandersnatch was a Choose Your Own Adventure movie they put out that was pretty great, I thought. I don't see a full merge of the two. There's certainly going to be more and more overlap as you go. Branching narrative is a different beast. Certainly, game writers can write single-thread stories fairly easily. That's not a big transition. But just pulling a screenwriter into games, if they don't have the kind of technical, just sort of mindset and the love of thousands of threads just flailing around like a Medusa's head sort of thing. It's not going to be a good fit. So I think it takes a special kind of insanity to really just love the complexity of game writing.
Well, I mean, you're talking about a Boolean narrative. That's not easy in the best day.
Yeah, Marie, it's like a Boolean cube.
Say, what's a Boolean narrative?
Yeah.
Boolean, if then.
Oh, bully.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's that's all the time we have for the interview right now. Join us as we return in our next segment with Nate's first pop quiz for Steam and Lie Again.
Watch as Molly controls her sweat glands and puts the rest of the faculty and our visiting professor into a lie detector tailspin, all on the next episode of Balderdash Academy. I ran out of breath on that one. Whew.
Thank you for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. You can find us on your favorite podcast service as Balderdash Academy. Go Dashers!